Do you have access to anybody anymore, other than me?
Good evening, everyone. It's 7 o'clock. The Gardner City Council will come to order. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first item on the agenda this evening is public comments. Members of the public are welcome to use this time to make comments about city matters or items on the agenda that are not part of a public hearing. If you wish to speak during public comments, I ask you to come forward to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and be heard. Okay, with no one stepping forward, we'll move to the consent agenda. Is there a council member that would like to remove an item from the consent agenda? That being the case, I'd entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second. Motion Harrison, second Freeman, that we approve the consent agenda. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Big night, budget night. New business item number 1 is consider approving an ordinance adopting the fiscal year 2014 budget. We've got Laura Gorley at the podium. I'd like to suggest that we follow the procedures that are established in the governing body rules of procedure. We get the staff presentation, allow for public comments, and then we have council comments. That's the way it's written in the rules of procedure, which we adopted by ordinance in March. If you're going to have questions, make yourself some notes and save them for after public comments, please. And with that, Laura, good evening.
Good evening. Well, as you stated, this is the night that we consider adopting the budget. So I will remind, because there are people here in the audience who have not heard this, the 2014 budget was created using the best practice of priority-based budgeting, which is a process that starts with desired outcomes and results in mind, and it's a multi-year planning process that involves evaluating the results and making adjustments as needed also. This 2014 budget process actually began last fall with administrative staff visioning work with the community, and then we brought forth their priorities for your input. And then following that, in January, you began one of 3 separate work sessions in which you developed your strategic goals. The January meeting was when you met with an economic development panel, and you were presented several different presentations regarding trends and economic development data. Bob Marcus, Mary Birch, Pete Hebben, Ed Eilert all came to speak to you that night, as well as staff. The second work session was March 11th, in which Ben Hart from Allen Gibbs and Hulig came and discussed with you the process of priority-based budgeting, and he also did kind of a quick basics of governmental fund accounting discussion with you. The third night, you also had a facilitated work session with Mr. Hart and Derek Nielsen, in which we went through a whole process that you developed your 4 strategic goals that you used to guide your vision and to develop your budget. During June 10th and July 1st, staff brought forward initiatives that supported your strategic goals and received your consensus direction regarding what to include in the budget. The last meeting, July 15th, you held a public hearing to receive public input on the proposed budget, and at that night, no one came to make comments on the proposed budget. So now you're at one of the final steps prior to monitoring and making adjustments as needed. This is the step in which you actually adopt the 2014 budget as proposed or consider it. That's all I have to say.
Well, at this point, we would open the floor to public comments again. If there's anyone that would like to be heard on agenda item number 1, adopting an ordinance for the 2014 budget, and ask that you come forward to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and be heard. That being the case, Laura, if you want to come back to the podium, I have a feeling that we've got council members that are going to have questions, and if previous budget sessions hold to form, there's probably more than one, so let's try not to step on each other, and let's try and get everybody a chance to ask their questions. With that, is there someone that would like to lead off?
I think I'd like to, Mayor.
Okay, Steve.
Laura, I've had some conversations with the city administrator and with others concerning the transfer utilities monies, the $219,000 over 2 years that's been laid out in the budget. It's a retroactive adjustment, I understand, to the fact that we weren't getting the best rates with regard to our city buildings, our electric-only city buildings. For the last, I think 3 years, I think we went back to, correct?
It was just 2 years. It was
2 years.
2011 and through October of 2012.
Okay, 2001 and 2012. There have been concerns raised, I believe. I think that others have been informed on the council concerning some potential issues with that from the EUB's perspective. I had mentioned in meetings with city staff that I would have liked to have seen an adjustment pilot from a percentage level of 5% to a somewhat higher percentage level, understanding that, and I know there's some people on the dais that are disagreement with me on this, but we understand that the relationship between ourselves and the EUB is cloudy. I think that individuals on both sides would agree on that, and there needs to be a clarification. There are individuals who are on the EUB side that are very much in favor of looking at reevaluating Ordinance 2296, which established the EUB, and clarifying that relationship. And I know that there are several on this body that are also in favor of that. Understanding that, knowing that they are neither a full utility and we are their customers, that is not the case, and neither is the fact that they are entirely city-controlled. As it currently stands right now, they have the autonomy to make their decisions, and they've made their decisions in the past for good or for ill from the perspective of the city body. My question here is, why are we not looking at a pilot increase in lieu of going back retroactively, which messes with budget numbers on the EUB side in particular? And I understand that there's been some concerns that there may actually be some legality issues with regard to that move as well.
I would throw out a couple of things. Number one, I'm not sure what you meant about legality issues.
I think there's a portion of the charter ordinance, it's not a charter ordinance, but Ordinance 2296, which states that there is a, let me take a look here. No money shall be drawn from funds of electric utility, nor shall any obligation for the expenditures of money be incurred except in conformity with established purchasing policies and procedures, and as authorized by the board and approved by the director or some other employee to be designated by the director. My understanding is that the UB was not consulted and did not give any kind of approval to this transfer. Is that correct?
Let me tell you what the auditors say.
Okay.
The governing body, and also that section refers to purchasing, not to budgeting.
Okay.
There's another section further back in the ordinance that we can look up, but it says that the governing body approves the transfer to the general fund as part of the annual budget process.
And no input whatsoever from the UB in that?
Did I ask them about reconnection fees and the transfer? No, sir, I did not, because that was at the governing body's direction when you said you don't want rates to be 12 and 12.
I understand that, but we also thought, given that direction, that there would be some communication between ourselves and the EUB when it came to, for basically all intents and purposes, raiding their funds in order to be able to make our budget whole. And I am a little distressed that there was no communication. I think that any kind of relationship that is built on, mutual understanding and mutual benefit needs to be consideration from both parties involved, which means that the city government and the EUB both need to work together to come up with a solution and not have a solution dictated from one body to the other. And I feel that that's what's happened here. And furthermore, I would say that the transfers, the mechanism for transfers between the EUB and the city government is the pilot. That is the arrangement by which the ordinance designates that funds be transferred from one party to the other. And so the fact that the pilot was not considered in this as a means of transferring funds from the EUB to the city government is also somewhat distressing to me, understanding that I did mention it in the discussions that I had with city staff, and it doesn't seem like that was adhered to. So